George, as you look at this Tiger Ball Club in '87, are you surprised with the success that they've had based on perhaps what people thought in spring training?
No, I'm not. In spring training, I said it's a good ball club. I said they had some question marks. I said they'd miss Lance Parrish, and they'd miss him tremendously, and they have to a certain extent. His leadership in the clubhouse and his very presence with the ball club. But if Lance Parrish had still been here, we wouldn't have seen Matt Noakes. And, he's had a tremendous year. He has absolutely won games for us. What's he got, 26 home runs, and has played great, and he's played well. But, no, I was not surprised. I thought the pitching in the bullpen would be a little better than it is. And if the pitching in the bullpen had to come up to their expectations, they'd be leading this league by 3 or 4 games.
What about the final 4 weeks of the season? Toronto obviously has played as well as the Tigers have, yet they've only been able to essentially keep pace. What do you see as the key in the last 3.5 weeks of the season?
Well, pitching, of course. And I'm not surprised that Toronto played well. I said in spring training Toronto might have one of the 2 or 3 best teams in all of baseball, in both leagues. And I don't feel any different about it right now. I think the pennant's going to be decided in the last 7 times these 2 clubs meet. They'll meet 4 in Toronto, and then if it still means anything, 3 in Detroit they'll meet. So I think it'll be decided right there. And it's going to be decided on pitching and mainly in the bullpen now. Our starting pitching is every bit as good, if not better, than the Toronto Ball Club. And at times we've had great pitching out of the bullpen. But going down the stretch in the last 3 weeks, at times may not be good enough. You're going to have to get it consistently.
How about the acquisitions of Jim Morrison, Doyle Alexander, and Bill Madlock? What has that meant to the ball club?
Well, it's made all the difference in the world. Madlock, we were at one time a patsy for left-handed pitching. We just didn't have enough good right-handed hitting. And Morrison's helped a whole lot, and Madlock has just been tremendous. And Doyle Alexander's won 3-0 since he's been here, and 2 of them have been shutouts, and he's just pitched like super. Well, what you've done here, you've acquired 3 guys that they've been there before. Every one of them been in a pennant race. They know what it's all about. They're having fun. They're not over here figuring, hey, I've got to produce and make this ball club. They're all veterans. They know what they do right now is what they got them for the pennant race. And, boy, they've been great. All of them have been great.
There's a natural tendency, albeit unfair sometimes, to compare ball clubs. If you looked at the '68 team and the '84 team, how do you think this team might match up against those clubs?
Well, Sparky says this is a better team than the '84 team that won it all. Now, I don't know. He would know more about that than I do. He's down there with them. I think this club is deeper than the '84 team. He can reach on the bench and get a Madlock or a Morrison that he couldn't do before. And before he had 3 or 4 no-name guys in '84 that came off the bench and had one super good year and helped us. But he is deeper and better in that respect. But he said when we were 11-19 back in May that this is a better ball club than '84, and they're going to show it. So I believe in Sparky. I'm a great believer in Sparky Anderson, I'll tell you that. And if it comes down to the last 10 days or so of the season, Sparky will be the difference. You wait and see.
As you look back on your, 25 years in the broadcast booth now?
29.
29, I'm sorry.
29.
Is there any particular season or game or memorable moment that stands out in your career as a broadcaster?
Well, the '84 season, I think every broadcaster likes to work for a team that's going to the World Series. And in '68, we had a fine ball club, but it was nip and tuck all the way, and I remember that well. And especially Al Kaline coming, Al wasn't playing much toward the end of the year. And Al coming into the World Series and making room for him by putting Stanley at shortstop, and everybody said Mayo Smith lost his mind. He's taken a center fielder and put him in shortstop to make room for Kaline, which you had to have Kaline in the lineup, and it turned out to be a master stroke, and I marveled at that. But I marveled more at the '84 ball club, who left spring training gung-ho, beating everybody, didn't think anybody could beat them. Looked like the Yankees when I played, the way they played like that. And they opened the season and just started beating everybody to death. And nobody was really surprised. They were surprised they went 35-5. But nobody was surprised that they beat everybody because they left spring training intending to win it all.
You're in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, of course. How big a thrill was that for you to be inducted?
Greatest thrill I ever had in baseball. Any ball player that'll tell you that it is not the greatest thrill he's ever had, I think maybe he's forgetting a few things that's happened along the way. This is the goal of every ball player to get into Cooperstown. And when I was selected, I'll never forget it. And that day of my induction, and all my family there and my friends there, and someone said Milton Richmond of the UPI, who just passed away last year, wrote me a letter and said it'll change your whole life. And I said, well, I hope not. But it does. It does to a certain extent. It changes your whole life, the way people look at you. They perceive you to be a better ball player maybe than you really are. Yeah, once you go into the Hall of Fame, and they perceive you to have done things on the ball field that you really didn't do. But it's the greatest thing can happen to a ball player.
You've got a real Hall of Fame broadcast team with yourself and Al and Ernie Harwell, of course. Could you comment on Ernie Harwell's great career as a Tiger broadcaster?
He's absolutely the best. When you go back in the history of broadcasting, and you name a half dozen broadcasters you can think of, and he's got to be in the top half dozen. There's no doubt about that. And he's found a home in Detroit, and the people there love him. And somebody told me the other day, said, you know what the toughest job in the world is going to be? And I said, what is that? And he said, replacing Ernie Harwell. I thought he was going to talk about a ball player. He said, whoever steps in and replaces Ernie Harwell, when I don't know when it'll be. I hope it's not for 10 more years, but when he leaves, whoever replaces him is going to have one tough job.
Yourself personally, do you have thoughts about continuing for another 10 years? I know the Tiger fans would love that, to have you in the TV booth for that long.
Well, I'm taking it a year at a time. I have another year to go. I've signed 6 5-year contracts since I've been in Detroit. So next year will be 30 years, and my contract's up. I'm going to sign one more. My wife keeps saying, hey, how long are you going to keep beating yourself all over the country like this? But she likes it, and I like it. She was with me in Kansas City 3 weeks ago for a weekend. She was with me in Texas this weekend, and she loves it. And I just talked to her on the phone just now and told her I flew up this morning. I said, the game's off. She said, can you come home tonight? I said, if I'd have known it 2 hours ago, I could. I'd catch 8 o'clock. But and then I got to go back to Milwaukee this weekend. But we love it. And as long as I feel good and I feel great, and as long as the travel doesn't wear me out, I figure I'll work 5 more years. That's